Good morning, welcome back. This is Daybreak and thank you for staying with us. The hashtag on X is Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. Let's now focus our attention on what happened in Parliament yesterday. Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Masika Wetangula, has finally acceded to a decision by the Azimio Coalition Party to remove nominated MP Sabina Chege as its Deputy Minority Whip, replacing her with Embakasi West lawmaker Mark Mwenje. Chege will now lead the Jubilee Party in the House as its whip, after Speaker Wetangula recognized the former ruling party as a parliamentary party. The Azimio Coalition had protested Wetangula's delay in the recognition of their decision communicated nearly 6 months ago.
In this regard, the Honorable Mark Mwenje MP forthwith replaces Sabina Chege MP as the Deputy Whip of the Minority Party. The Jubilee Party is hereby recognized as a parliamentary party within the meaning of Standing Order 20A. Consequently, the Honorable Sabina Chege, by virtue of the written support of 21 members out of 28 members of the Jubilee Party in the House, is allowed to perform in the interim the role of the whip of that party in the House.
I wish to thank you for finally effecting the communication from my office regarding the change in the holder of the office of the Deputy Minority Whip.
Can then the Honorable Mark Mwenje, as a member of the same Jubilee Party, be a whip in Azimio One Kenya Coalition if Jubilee pretends to have left the Azimio One Kenya Coalition? Would that, Honorable Speaker, be putting the Honorable Member for Embakasi West in a very precarious situation, Honorable Speaker, because he may be construed to have defected from Jubilee political party?
Those are the proceedings at the National Assembly yesterday. Honorable Kenan, I come to you. Certainly the factional wars are not ending yesterday. Your faction of the party was not content with the communication by the Speaker of the National Assembly. But what does this signal of the once giant party which ruled between 2017 and 2022?
Thank you. I think I will say not our faction, but the Jubilee Party.
Yeah.
Because we represent the Jubilee Party. Is contented with the Speaker's decision because of the following reasons. I think people do not understand, do not internalize the input of the Speaker's decision.
Okay.
The Speaker recognized Jubilee as a parliamentary party. In the National Assembly now, we have 3 parliamentary parties. We have the Kenya Kwanza Coalition, which is a parliamentary coalition.
Okay.
We have the Azimio group, and now we have the Jubilee group with the same rights. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing absolutely for Azimio lost. We have allowed them to go with one of our members. We have no problem with Mark Mwenje. But Jubilee as entity now is a parliamentary party. We therefore will be demanding for our rights as a parliamentary party, as envisaged under the current standing orders and the Constitution. And therefore, we did very well. The Speaker did well. That was a Solomonic ruling. And I think when he made reference to what Speaker Marende did between 2007 and 2013 on a number of occasions when he was confronted with similar challenges. Mm-hmm. And this is the input of the ruling. And I think it's just good to call a spade a spade. He allowed Mwenje, as demanded by the Azimio group, to be their whip,
okay,
their deputy whip. We have no problem. Equally, he also elevated Sabina Chege as Jubilee Party, which has been the whip of Jubilee Party, which has been recognized as a parliamentary party. And therefore, for me, as one of the persons actually engaged in this, what we are waiting for formally, and we have been civil actually in our approach. It is true that purportedly we were told we were part of the Azimio coalition. Mm-hmm. I was the national deputy chairman of the Azimio
coalition.
Mm-hmm. I'm yet to see that particular coalition. The Speaker made reference to
You mean the agreement?
The agreement.
Okay.
The Speaker made reference to it in October when he formalized the formation of the 2 coalitions. Mm-hmm. Nobody has seen it. We are subjected to something that we don't see. We now invoked because we were duped. And it's good to understand how this thing came about. Just like it happened to many other people before. We thought we were in a civilized coalition. But when it came to the sharing of positions, Jubilee is the 3rd largest party in the National Assembly. Number 1 is UDA, number 2 is ODM, the 3rd is Jubilee. Out of the positions allocated to the minority party, we lost, our position should have been the deputy minority leader, PSC commission, 3 out of the key committees, all were allocated to other entities. So we asked ourselves, are we really dealing with a civilized group or crooks who have professionally actually been engaged in swindling people? And this has happened actually to Honorable Wetangula, this has happened to Honorable Mudavadi, and many other people actually in the past, and the different coalitions. So when we did an analysis, we realized that we had nothing, we lost. Okay. That is why we said, let's invoke the exit clause, exit this. Again, they were yet to add, because they are yet to internalize that, because Azimio does not have an internal dispute resolution mechanism. So it's a fake group. So the fact that now we have been recognized, I'm happy, will function as a third parliamentary party. But the bit that we really want to put to, because I saw a story by The Nation, it is completely misleading. Somebody has written, Uhuru, Jubilee allies get the last laugh as Sabina Chege. No, it's not true. This is misleading. That is not the fact. Okay. The truth, the news are 3 things. We have allowed Honorable Mwenje to go with his group as per his conscience, as his right to associate with any particular grouping. Okay. Equally, Jubilee now is a parliamentary party. Sabina Chege has been elevated to the position of Jubilee whip. Okay. Jubilee whip. She was a deputy whip. Now she's the Jubilee whip. Of course, in the interim, as all these issues are sorted out. Once that is sorted out, being sorted out means the other Azimio, because we are not going back to Azimio. We have left Azimio. Okay. Honorable Kenan, I take your point. This all again gets back to the events that happened at the KICC during the National Delegates Conference of the Azimio Coalition Political Party. And there was President Uhuru Kenyatta and all of the parties that had at the time made the coalition political party. I mean, when you talk about agreements that you have never seen, when you talk about being duped of positions in parliament, for example, as you have mentioned, what then was the main focus of the coalition party when you had your NDC? Were you focused more on blocking the path of then Deputy President William Ruto to ascending the presidency? And in that regard, then, why did you play the man and not the ball in focusing on the agreement, what was in it, and establish what you signed then? Because you're telling me that you never understood, you never saw the agreement. I mean, and the focus largely, the tone of that conference, I remember very well, was more on then Deputy President William Ruto and bulking him from the presidency. Why at the time not focus on very important issues, the ball, instead of playing the man then, the Deputy President William Ruto? You see, these parties have honors. Jubilee then had one honor called Uhuru Kenyatta. ODM has one honor called Raila Amolo Odinga. Waiba has one honor called Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, and just like many other parties. So they made their own decision in their boardrooms, and what you saw was just a public, facade. That happened. The issue is, the reality is, Kenyans made their decision in August. Okay. They elected. They did the unexpected. They voted. They elected William Ruto as the president, as the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya. The reality is, because of those unfamiliar and unchoreographed policies by the coalition that came together, just because of hate for one person or this, things were not properly choreographed, were not properly analyzed. So what happened ultimately? Jubilee being lost from being the governing party to a Staragram party. With near supermajority. With near supermajority. So the reality has now dawned on us. And then when the Azimio coalition lost, for us as Jubilee, we accepted the reality that we lost the election. That's why Jubilee, from day one, we said we're not going to be party to the mandamandos that were going on. We accepted that we have been beaten, fairly, squarely, and we have the new president called William Ruto, and that is the reality. The other group did not accept. Now, this coalition in parliament, and you know it, its history repeats itself. The same thing that these particular groups have been doing to their associates from 92 is what they have done to Jubilee. But for us, this time around, instead of just agonizing silently, we just said boldly, no, we will not be subject to this abusive marriage. Look at the Senate. Fatuma Dula was removed as the minority whip. Our positions in IALA, our positions in the House Business Committee, all the positions actually were taken by ODM. How do you expect us to just sit, clap for you as you demean us, as you ride on our position? So we as Jubilee, out of the 34 members, we have left one member called Mark Mwenje for Azimio. The other 33 members are now subject to the new realities of Jubilee being a parliamentary party. Okay. And we will sit down, plan our activities, work with our conscience, support what is good, refuse what is bad, and always remain alive to the national well-being of the people of Kenya.
We'll flip over to the place of policies and ideologies, because that is very key. And the party at the time in 2016, on the 9th of September, was purposely formed to unite the country with no regard for ethnic balkanization, ending religious affinity of political party membership, and also uniting the country. Honorable Soti, what do you make of this after a long struggle over who replaces Sabina Chege? Now the chicken is coming home to roost?
Well, I didn't expect something different from what happened yesterday because, you know, the law is very clear. Once your coalition says you are not going to be the leader, you should not be the leader. And I think this should have been resolved long time ago. But I think the Speaker did not have any other option but to make the change. And we have seen this even in the Senate. Senator Fatuma Dulo even went to court and did a lot of things, but she had to go. So it was going to happen. And I have the benefit of having been in the National Assembly and having participated in writing the current standing orders that they have as a member of the House Business Committee. And I want to say the standing orders of the National Assembly only recognizes majority party and minority party. That is, in this case, we have Kenya Kwanza, which is the majority party, and Azimio, which is minority party. That is in the standing order of the National Assembly. We went ahead and created caucuses in those standing orders. And one of the caucuses we created was parliamentary groups. Yeah. A party that has 5% representation in the House was recognized as a parliamentary caucus. So, like what Honorable Kenan is saying, actually Jubilee has only been recognized as a caucus in the House, whose whip, and I want him to go and read the standing orders, whose whip is Sabina Chege, but the substantive position of minority whip,
deputy minority whip,
is Honorable Mwenje. So that is a position. The communication on Sabina Chege being the whip of Jubilee is cosmetic, because one, it was on the basis of a list of Jubilee members who wrote to the Speaker saying they wanted to be recognized as a parliamentary party. But it was not on the basis of a communication from Jubilee Party. Remember, Jubilee Party still have a tussle. So far, the party that has gotten orders, the faction that has gotten orders to be in office is Uhuru Kenyatta's faction. So that is one. Number two, for them to be recognized as a separate political party, then they need to exit Azimio coalition. And the process of exit has to be processed through the office of the Registrar of Political Parties. That has not been done. And that's why I'm saying that particular communication by the Speaker on Jubilee being a party is cosmetic. It was just meant to massage the egos of those who supported Sabina Chege or Sabina Chege herself. But this substantive communication was that, and I remember the Speaker, even after reading the communication, he came and said, and it should be very clear, that the deputy minority whip is Mwenje, and that position follows with the trappings of power. He never said the same of Sabina Chege. Okay. So Sabina Chege and his colleagues, like Honorable Kenan, they are in for big trouble. Okay. Because this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. Because that communication, what it means is that they are hanging. They are neither the minority, they are neither the majority. And you see now a decision like placing members in committees, they will have either to side with the majority side for them to get placement or minority side. So it is actually put them in a very awkward
we'll talk. Okay, we'll talk more about the positions here. I'll come to Honorable Kenan. You have a point. Yes, Senator Nyuto, where is all this crisis? Why all this crisis, and where does it place the former ruling Jubilee Party?
Thank you very much, Ayub. You know, I've been keenly listening to my colleagues here. You know, I'm in UDA, and I think the tussle, of course, involved, it was between, say, ODM, because it's the largest party within Azimio, and the Jubilee. But Ayub, we must, you know, deliberate, think, and maybe see what the majority leader said yesterday during the deliberations, that Jubilee Party has been kind of removed now from Azimio, and as the communication went, now they are a parliamentary party. But then Mark Mwenje, as we have been informed, is left to be the deputy minority leader, minority whip, sorry, while his party has moved to become a parliamentary party. Then I think there are questions that need to be answered. But I think this crisis comes because of I think conmanship in politics. Because you look at the Senate and, you know, Jubilee had only been given that position of minority whip, which was being occupied by the Senator for Isiolo, Honorable Fatuma Dulo. In spite of it being actually even larger than the other parties, apart from ODM. And even when she was kicked out, actually, I would have expected them maybe to bring in another Jubilee member to replace Dulo. But they brought an ODM member. So I think there has been a lot of conmanship, for lack of a better word. A lot of, I mean, Jubilee has been mistreated in that particular coalition. And I think it had to do what, I think it's sweet freedom for Jubilee. Yeah. Because you do not want to be in an abusive relationship. Though you want to stick because maybe of the other interests, if you are to compare it to a marriage because of the children. But then this abuse becomes so much that finally you have the last laugh when you are extricated from this particular abusive relationship. So I think what we should be talking about is faithfulness, is truthfulness within parties. If we are in a coalition, let every coalition partner be treated maybe according to their strength. So I think ODM in particular needs to show a better picture where it is fair to other junior partners within the coalition.
Okay. Yes, Honorable Kenan.
But I think there's something, my friend here seems to be ignorant of the very standing order he proposed to have participated actually in crafting. You need to analyze the Speaker's ruling. The Speaker invoked Standing Order 20A, as read with Article 36 and Article 38 of the Constitution, and recognized Jubilee as a parliamentary party. The law is as it is. We can have coalition of parties. For one to be recognized as a parliamentary party in the National Assembly, a party must have garnered 5% of the elected and nominated members of parliament. That's about 17 something. So Jubilee has 28 members. So we qualify. So what the law is, and this is the bit that my brother here has to understand, you can have coalition of parties. We have two coalitions, the majority
the minority.
And minority. You can also have other parliamentary parties that do not subscribe to any of those coalitions. Okay? Yeah. And that is exactly what the Speaker has done. So Jubilee from yesterday is a parliamentary party on its own. And therefore, when it comes to positions, whether committees or not, we will get our position as a right. As a right.
Okay. Independent of...
as a right, yes, independent of... As a right based on our numbers. We have 28. You need to compete. How many positions are for this particular group? We'll get... So that is the bit my friend here has to understand. And therefore, we will not be subject will not be subject to, the numbers are there. What is the position that can go to be based on our numbers are easily computed. So that bit has already been sorted out. What my friend here doesn't understand is the definition of a parliamentary party. You do not have to be necessarily in two coalitions to be in parliament. You can have other parties that are not either in Kenya Kwanza or in...
Like we do have other parties, of course, in parliament at the moment.
But other parties, no. Right now we have only had two groups.
Yeah.
Kenya Kwanza,
Azimio.
and Azimio, and the independent group. Now we have the third group called Jubilee as a parliamentary party. And therefore, that is the bit. So the person who will be lost, and you can take this to the bank, ultimately the person who will be floating will be the Mark Mwenje.
Okay, but talk to me about Honorable Kenan, the effect of that communication by Speaker Wetangula. I mean, what role as a whip will Sabina Chege play? Because the Constitution envisages that we have the minority leader, the deputy minority leader, the minority whip, and the deputy minority.
That is for coalitions.
Yes.
But you can also have other parliamentary parties. So Sabina will be our whip, our chief whip, for the third parliamentary party. You know, now, the import of this is this. We have two coalitions that have already been registered, called Kenya Kwanza Coalition and Azimio Coalition. Now, the Speaker has recognized a third party called Jubilee Parliament, Jubilee as a parliamentary group. So meaning the benefits, whatever Jubilee will be allocated, will be based on Jubilee numbers in the House. And technically, because the Speaker is actually a bit judicious, what he has done, he has put this on temporary basis. The appointment of Sabina, he said, until the cases are sorted out. That is true, because there are a number of cases. A number of cases by us or by another group. But recognition of Jubilee as a parliamentary party is with finality. It is done, dusted. Jubilee from yesterday is a parliamentary party and therefore will function as a parliamentary party. The benefits that come is clearly defined in the standing orders. Placement of committees, we will have our representative in the selection committee. We will have our representative in the House Business Committee. We will reclaim our position of Parliamentary Service Commission. Listen, we will reclaim the oppositions were allocated 3 slots. Our slot was taken. We will reclaim the position of the deputy minority leader in the Senate, in the National Assembly. Okay. So there are a number of positions, and these are our rights. These are our rights, because now that the Speaker has made that decision, they will have no option. Of course, the one of PSC will be a bit tedious, the constitutional issue and the constitutional commission. Yeah. But they will have no right to keep our positions, because those positions rightfully actually belong to us.
Okay. Okay. Yes, Honorable.
You know, Honorable Kenan is a very senior legislator, having served, I think this must be the 5th term. 25 years, yeah. Yeah, but I think he's misleading the public, because the Constitution is very clear. There are only 2 groupings recognized in Parliament. That's the majority and the minority. The majority,
which section?
Or a coalition of parties. So in this case now, Jubilee is a parliamentary party. That is not in doubt. It's a parliamentary party because they have more than 17 members. Because the standing order says 5% of total representation in the National Assembly. So they have more than 17 members. That is given. But they are still a minority party. They are still a minority party.
Not in any way elevated.
So what the Speaker has done, and the Speaker is a lawyer, he knows how to play with words here and there, has simply recognized them because they made a request as a political party, but a political party under the framework of the minority. And that is why Mwenje has been picked as a deputy chief whip, because Jubilee legally is still part of the minority. They are just a parliamentary party, but still part of the minority grouping. Unless they sign a coalition agreement with Kenya Kwanza, and that coalition agreement is processed legally by the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties and submitted to the Speaker, then they can now be recognized as a political party, a parliamentary party under the majority.
The majority group, okay.
Under the majority group. So that is the law.
I think that is the way
you know, these things, they can be argued here now. But when you go back,
I don't want to interrupt you, but
yeah, it will come to that.
Okay,
and,
just hang on. Then from there, I'll come to Senator Nyuto. Honorable Kenan, then talk to me about this. Have you effected the exit clause of the coalition political party?
Yes, we gave notice.
You gave notice.
You gave notice. Ideally, and that notice is supposed to be given after 3 months.
That is 90 days after the,
the general election. We did it, but because Azimio doesn't have any internal dispute resolution mechanism, they left it to go. So, and that is why they were, you need to read, my friend here.
Okay, but Honorable Kenan, talk to me then. I mean,
I want to analyze this.
Yeah.
There are three things. When the Speaker appointed Sabina Chege as an interim whip of Jubilee, he was alive to the existing court cases.
Yeah.
But when he recognized Jubilee as a parliamentary party, that is with a finality. With a finality.
How binding is it?
The Speaker, it's final. The only court of law that can change that, it's final. As far as parliamentary practice is concerned, it's final. It's done. From yesterday, we are a parliamentary party. We'll claim our positions. We'll function as a parliamentary party. And my friend here, again, doesn't understand the parliamentary traditions. You do not have necessarily to belong to the two coalitions for you to be in parliament. You can have other parliamentary parties. You can be independent. You do not have to be in two coalitions. You don't have to be in Kenya Kwanza coalition or Azimio coalition to be in parliament. You can have a third, fourth, as long as you meet the threshold of 5% of the elected or nominated representative.
Okay.
To that extent,
yeah,
it is true we are part of Azimio coalition. But from yesterday, the Speaker's ruling has elevated us to a parliamentary party, and therefore we will function as a third group. KK, Azimio, Jubilee, parliamentary party.
Okay, but Honorable, just Senator, let's be fair, I'll come to Senator Nyuto. But Honorable Kenan, because there seems to be a web of confusion here, and this is what the court said. This is the view of Judge Justice Dora Chepkwony, who had presided on this matter. The petitioner, she said, Sabina Chege, has not exhausted all the available dispute resolution mechanisms as provided for in the Political Parties Act, and therefore this court has no jurisdiction to hear and determine this petition. If the court pronounced itself on the matter, how binding then is Speaker Moses Wetangula's pronouncement yesterday? Because there seems to be a confusion as to whether you are in or out of the Azimio coalition party.
I think you need again to analyze the Speaker. And I want to repeat this, when the Speaker appointed Honorable Sabina Chege on interim basis, he was alive to even that court ruling. And in fact, he mentioned actually, he said, the court said, go and exhaust. What are these internal
dispute resolution mechanism?
That's what I'm alluding to. Azimio does not have an internal dispute resolution mechanism. If they had, they would have invoked. They forgot. Two, it's true what the court did is the court didn't want to get involved on party disputes. That provision is still there. The court has made a decision to it. The Speaker has alluded to the same. So what remains right now, and that's why Sabina was appointed on interim basis. If this other dispute resolution mechanism changes, otherwise, we will be there that day when that decision will be made. But for now, one thing is with finality. Jubilee is a parliamentary party, the third distinct group. As to whether we are in Azimio, we are no longer in Azimio. We have given the exit clause, it's up to for them. It has passed now, it's over a year. We are no longer in Azimio.
Okay.
As to our positions in Parliament, rightfully as a parliamentary party, we will compete. The majority will go with their slots. All the other positions are located to the other group. Jubilee must get, and it's not an issue of privilege, it's our right.
Thank you.
In every appointment or selection.
I'll come to you, Honorable Senator Nyuto.
Thank you. Thank you, Ayub. You know, because this, like I had said, because this war is between ODM and Jubilee, I think it can go on and on because I'm the only UDA member here. So, but I think the question that the two colleagues need to deal with is, now that Sabina Chege has been appointed as the chief whip of Jubilee Party, I think they should be telling us, do they think, according to the standing orders, and both of them have been in the National Assembly, will there be an office? I think that is what just a minute, I think that is what is bothering both members. Will there be an office according to the standing orders of the National Assembly for Sabina Chege as whip of Jubilee Party? But then I think what Honorable Kenan is saying is that if it is placement in committees, then Jubilee is going to be considered as a different party, so that by right they'll be placed, they do not have to be placed through Azimio coalition. They will be placed, they'll be given their fair share according to their strength in parliament, in committees. But what I think for me they need to tell us, or according to their understanding, is will there be an office facilitated?
The answer is yes.
Paid?
Yes.
Hold on, just a minute,
yes, let him finish.
Will we now have a minority whip and another Jubilee party whip in the National Assembly? I think that is a question that maybe the two of you need to answer us from your understanding or from your reading of the standing orders. But as for placement, like I've said, as for placement in maybe committees, I think I go with Mheshimiwa Kinan, that they have now a right to be placed without any reference whatsoever to the Azimio coalition.
But how do you think that crisis can be resolved? Because for Kimani Ichung'wah, owned by Sylvanus Osoro, there's a provided for office facilitated by the taxpayer established in the Constitution. On the other part, you have Opiyo Wandayi, Robert Mbui, and now Mark Mwenje, recognized, facilitated office holders by the law. I mean, talk to me then about Sabina Chege. In what capacity would she be facilitated, and how would she represent the Jubilee Party?
I think that question, that question, the definition of the law of a parliamentary party, once you become a parliamentary party, you get all the benefits. A parliamentary party, by definition, the National Assembly is that party must get 5% of the elected or nominated members of the National Assembly. 5% of 349 is almost 17 something. So, and we have 28. So to that extent, we are a parliamentary party, and therefore Sabina will get all the benefits. All the benefits, the minority whip, whoever he is, or gets, because she is going to be the whip of a party that is recognized as a parliamentary party.
Yes, I think if you allow me, Ayub, I think now if what Mheshimiwa Kinan is saying is what was going to follow from yesterday's communication from the Speaker, then I think every other small party would want, every other small party that meets the threshold,
if they are there,
if they are there, 5%, then everybody would want to break away and maybe have their party whip, the party
identified as a parliamentary party.
Yes. Okay. So I think we may need to think harder and deeper about things. Okay. Whether we will have now all those offices.
Thank you.
If you don't believe in coalitions, if you don't believe in coalitions, you have the right to be a distinct party.
Okay. Yes.
Let me be very clear. The Constitution recognizes only two groupings: the minority and majority. But within the minority, there could be parliamentary parties. In the case of Azimio, ODM is a parliamentary party. Because
they have not invoked that. They have the numbers. They have done it under the Azimio coalition.
Talk because you had your time. ODM is a parliamentary party. Jubilee is a parliamentary party. Wiper is a parliamentary party. All those are parliamentary parties within the minority group called Azimio. Now, Jubilee, he says that they gave a notice to exit. They gave a notice, the faction, Kanini Kega's faction. But then the matter is in court. They're in court. So that process was not finalized. So the Speaker does not have any communication as to their exit from Azimio is involved. So the Speaker was very clever in his words, if you read. In fact, at the end of his reading of that communication, he clearly said that I want to emphasize that the deputy minority whip is Mwenje, and all the trappings of power follow him. That's what he said. He never said the same to Sabina Chege. So Sabina Chege and his group, Kenan and the others, they are actually a political party recognized within the...
Let me read for you for avoidance of doubt.
Benefits do not follow them.
Let me read for you for avoidance.
This is the reality that they need to live with.
Okay. Can I read for avoidance of doubt?
Okay, let him finish.
And by the way, you see the matter is still in court.
Yeah.
If the court makes a decision which does not favor them, again they will be in trouble. Because legally they are in Azimio coalition. They have not exited Azimio coalition. He talks about internal dispute resolution mechanism. Azimio has internal dispute resolution mechanism. What happened is that the matter could not be processed because they went to court. The other group went to court to oppose their notice. So they are still fighting outside there, and even the processing of their membership in the House will have to be done by the minority whip, Junet Mohammed, and the deputy minority whip, Mwenje. Nothing is going to change. That's why in my statement I said that part of communication by the speaker was just cosmetic to make them happy.
Okay.
I think Mheshimiwa Otsosi, Senator, don't ridicule the speaker. Yeah, and I think he dwelt a bit of the way your party has been dealing with demeaning actually the office of the speaker. Let's respect the institutions. The ruling is there. Okay. It's out. Jubilee is a parliamentary party, and this is the fact that they must accept, just like now they have to accept that William Ruto is the president of Kenya. Jubilee is a parliamentary party from yesterday. We are not subject to Junet. We are not subject to Mwenje. All our issues will be handled by Sabina Chege as a whip. We'll get our right based on our numbers, as clearly stipulated in the standing orders, period. All the other things on the ownership and the other configuration of Jubilee will be sorted out by the court. And we'll discuss when we reach there. For now, if a party has met that threshold and you do not want to subscribe to a coalition, you have every right. And that's what my friend here, the senator, is alluding to.
Yes.
If my friend, the senator, if particular parties don't want to be in a particular coalition, you have every right. But when you make a decision to be in a coalition, which means there are certain rights that you forfeit and say, I won't be part of this grouping. For us, initially, it was envisaged that we'll be part of the Azimio grouping. But that grouping became abusive. We invoked the exit clause. So it's like we are doing this as a struggle. It's not something that we would have liked, but we were forced by circumstances. And I'm sure any other party that is forced by circumstances will have the right to say, I remember in the last parliament, Wiper had a problem with ODM in the last parliament. My friend here was in ANC. Wiper had a problem on the constitution, actually of the Parliamentary Service Commission. And the same thing, and they got their slot. And the speaker, Muturi, then made a decision and said, look, this is a parliamentary party, and therefore they must get a slot. They qualify to get a slot in the Parliamentary Service Commission. That is the way the Honorable Mumanyi actually was appointed. The law is very clear.
Thank you.
And the speaker made reference to all this. Okay. But I think because it is the beginning, my friends, you have to adjust to this reality that we are no longer part of that abusive marriage. We are a distinct party. We will operate in accordance with the standing orders and the Constitution. And therefore, when it comes to our dealings, deal with us now as the third biggest group.
Okay, that's it. Senators, let's finish up on this and we move on to what happened in Meru County yesterday. Senator Nyutu, coming to you.
Yes.
Talk to me about this sudden camouflage by politicians when it comes to not adhering to the policies or ideologies that a party stands for example. Honorable Sotsi was an ANC party member, Secretary General to be specific, then now an ODM senator. I mean, you have Honorable Adan Kenan over the years of his stay in Parliament, different political parties. Of course, you are a first-time senator on a UDA party ticket, but talk to me about the problem of politicians changing goalposts and not adhering to the policies and ideologies. Is our political system that weak that we can't have political parties that outlast certain after every electoral cycle, for instance?
Thank you, Ayub. I think there are two ways of looking at this thing, or there are two reasons for this, in my view. One is that some politicians, not all, are opportunistic. And so when maybe you realize that the party that you belong to may not be able to catapult you or maybe to deliver you to Parliament, then sometimes you are forced to quit. Because mostly it's not about ideology, mostly for many people, not all though, it's about being elected or re-elected. But I also want to say that the electorate, Wanjiku, is also a dictator. And it doesn't matter what the ideologies of a party are, It doesn't matter what your ideology is, but you know, at the end of the day, you are not the one electing yourself. It is the electorate that elects you. And the electorate dictate to you which party, if you want to serve them to give you an opportunity to serve them, which party you must belong to. So sometimes we blame politicians, but sometimes it's dictatorship by Wanjiku herself. That if you want it, and they will tell you when you go to the ground, the campaigns, you just go talk to people and they tell you, fine, we have listened to you, we think we like your policies, we think we like your manifesto, we like what you are promising to do.
Okay.
But if you are not in this particular formation, then please forget.
Is that not mindset corruption? Because if you have better policies and promising manifesto, why do you think then that they can't accord you the mandate?
I think what we need to do is to give our people more civic education, so that when we go to elections, or when we are going for elections, then they are able to assess leaders depending on their ability, depending on what they promise to do, and not depending on parties. Because where we are, whether we like it or not, I think our people are still not at that level where they elect politicians based or leaders based on their ability, based on what they can offer, but mostly it's based on parties. So I think what we need to do, the biggest challenge actually, I don't think is the leaders. It's not the politicians. The biggest challenge is we need to give our people more civic education, and that is the only thing that will make parties stand by their ideologies, that will make people life members of parties. Because as it is now, people shift from one party to the other, like you have observed, not really because they do not believe in the ideologies of maybe the parties they belong to, but because things shift on the ground. Okay,
fair. It's a democracy in the end. Honorable Kenan, what informs the sudden evaporation of your party, which had a near supermajority in parliament, to paltry less than 35% at the bicameral parliament, for example?
I think maybe you are too young to reflect on the history of this country. You need just to understand the making of the nation state of the Republic of Kenya. It's laden with tribalism, regionalism, petty bourgeoisism, and an indirect British rule that divided everybody into certain tribal cocoons. Once you internalize the making of this great nation, is a coalition of tribes. And each tribe has certain common. If you got the Luo nation, there are particular issues that are so dear to that particular community. If you go to the Mount Kenya, there are particular issues that are so dear to that particular group. If you go to the Northern, that being the case, parties are also a reflection of the same. And I think since the advent of multipartyism, you need to look at this. There are no two general elections from 92 to date that have had the same characteristic or the same denominators. 92 was different from 97. 97 was different from 2002. 2002 was different from 2007. 2000 was different from 2013. 2013 was different from 2017. 2017 was different from 2022. And certainly 2027 will be different from 2022. It is the dynamics of our policy. And largely, it's true. Parties, the proliferation of parties actually has largely been regional or tribal or personality driven. It's like the big names. The Odingas had their party. The Kibaki had his own party. Kalonzo had his own party. Now His Excellency William Ruto has a party. You need to understand the dynamics. So, and then in every election, we have had coalitions. These coalitions, one is on policy formation. The other one is tribal. The other one is personality driven. So even in these bigger groups that you see, there's an aspect of personality, driven issues, there's an aspect of regional issues, there's an aspect of party policies. All these things combined gives that particular group an identity. The challenge is the continuation of the same. We have had the NAC dream, it didn't work. We had the Jubilee dream, it partly worked or didn't work. Now we have the Azimio dream. Time will tell. I mean, we have had the Azimio dream, it didn't work. We now have the Kenya Kwanza dream. Time will tell whether it will work or not. So all these things combined is consistent with the history of this country. You go to particular regions, and then the other bit, I agree, even in America, you watched what was happening over the last 14 days, actually, to the Republican Party. You see the mutation of certain ideological, the emergence of certain ideological groupings that conflicted with the general party policies. And within a short time of 10 days, they have had over 8 candidates for the speaker's position. So it's a reality, it's politics. Look at what has happened in the UK. Within a very short time of, I think, 10 years, how many prime ministers?
I mean, very many, starting from Gordon Brown, David Cameron, Theresa May, Boris Johnson.
So politics is dynamic.
Where is the problem for our case then?
The problem for our case is there is no, I'll call it, ideologically speaking. Look at the NAC dream. Was it based on ideology or personality groupings? It was based, the ideology was there, but the personalities who come together also formed their own. It didn't last because very few subscribed to the ideology.
So the problem is the politicians?
Let me say, the problem is the politicians, and the politicians are a reflection of the group that they represent. So ultimately, you will have to say, what do my people want? That is why we need to think, and I think I like the way right now these guys are doing. This particular group, for the first time, was not based on regions. It was based on our ideology, the Hasala narrative. If they remain alive to the Hasala narrative, I can bet this will be the first ideologically driven, ideologically run party, and it's going to detribalize the politics of Kenya and bring professionalism, party policies to as part of the national party manifesto.
Yes, thank you. But Honorable Kenan, I come to Honorable Sotsi because this is very key, and getting the diagnosis of the political problem, and we have largely centered on the political class, you members included, all of you here. And if you have cited colonialism, of course, that's done. 1963, we became independent. Thereafter, Kenya became a republic. If the point you mentioned on tribalism is still a problem which does our political problem, why then, for example, and I give this example very deliberately, we have next door neighbor Tanzania, which has more tribes than we do, but it still has a Chama cha Mapinduzi as its founding party with strong roots within even the political systems of the country. Of course, to give this note that the Tanzanian people are still struggling to loosen the government's grip on what they see, hear, and read because of the freedom of information. I mean, if they have more tribes and they have a more politically stronger parties than we are, why are we different for our case? Yes, Honorable Kenan.
You see, Tanzania's political ideology was based on Ujamaism. Kenya's political, they were under the German rule, and then later on under the UN rule, but Kenya were under the British rule, indirect rule. What the British left here with it was indirect rule. Indirect rule meaning divide and rule, and out of that process, we have had different groups. There is this thing that we are calling the 3 C's: commerce, Christianity, and civilization. And then later on came Islam, education, and something else. And then we had the British rule, which was clearly a product of the Westminster model. When these things merge out of the constitution that we struggle for, the tribal element, the regional element, the petit bourgeoisie element, the indirect rule element. The indirect rule gave birth to the chiefs and the sons and daughters actually who are privileged. And the majority of them are now the rich, the landlords, who own actually almost 50–60% of Kenya. And it's not by right. It's because of their association with the British. You need to understand this country. And then so even politically, communities struggle to be part of that national niche. We struggled before 1991. For you to be a northerner, you remember you had a different identity. We had the Contagious District Act, we have the Administrative Act, we have the Indemnity Act, so many laws that clearly define who our Northern Kenyan is. That was removed with the advent of multipartyism. Before then, we were second-class citizens. Multipartyism brought about the dynamics of the Kenyan politics. Before 1992, we were one-party state. But after 1992, everybody went back to his own tribal cocoon. This tribal cocoon are laden with the individuals who feel that they can lead the communities. We were calling them what in your Hasala narrative? You are calling them?
The Which individuals?
These big individuals.
Or dynasty?
The dynasties. The dynasties is a manifestation of our history. And you know, it's not a very good tag. So all these combined right now, we have our multi-party provisions, we have our tribal issues, we have our regional issues, we have the dynasties, then we have these emergent hustler narratives. All these now ultimately must translate into something that is a policy that is implementable. That's why I was saying, for the first time, if this ideology of the hustler narrative is properly implemented and kept alive, because it was not laden with tribalism. You can see even the voting pattern, the way it was. It's something that can change, can dissect, can change the politics of Kenya. And that is why right now, if you look at the Azimio coalition, you know why it did not hold? Because there was no connectivity between the different groups.
Thank you.
This person is from this particular community, and there was even a clash before even they reached the final destination. So right now my appeal is, our politics lacks substance. It lacks ideology, that is true. We need to address this so that we have honesty, civility, and I will repeat this. If we have honesty and civility in our business, in our political transactions, then ideologically, we will be somewhere. And that is what ODM lacks.
Let me come to you on this, because it's important, Honorable Sotsi and Honorable Nyutu, because in under 24 hours, you will be getting, the Speaker of the Senate will be getting communication from the Speaker of Meru County Assembly, Ayub Bundi, on the impeachment for the second time of Governor Kawira Mwangaza, who was impeached by 59 members of the County Assembly, who voted to impeach her 10-ward representative who opposed her ouster, who are not present during the voting yesterday in the Assembly. It's the second time, and you sit in a house that is largely regarded as the guardrail of the devolved system of governance. So talk to me about this and its significance. I mean, is it based on accountability, the series of impeachments that we have had since 2013, or in many aspects, as the governor pointed out yesterday through her lawyer, subjecting her to the wrath of the MCAs?
Okay, maybe before I comment on that, allow me just to make a 1-minute comment on political parties. You know, in Kenya, we have 3 main stakeholders in the political parties. We have the politicians, who are the leaders who are seeking election or who are participating in politics. And then we have the political party. And then we have a regulator called the Registrar of Political Parties. Now, the politicians will have interest, will have self-interest. So that is why they were now put in the political parties. But experience showed that political parties had their own challenges, tribalism and all those manner of things. That's why we created the office of the Registrar of Political Parties. So what we need as a country now, we have the laws in place, but we need to strengthen that office of the Registrar of Political Parties and make it independent, so that when he or she can bring discipline in political parties and ensure that they comply with the law. As it is now, the 2 friends of mine here have used ODM negatively, but I want to tell you, the only formidable political party in this country which has structures, which has a working system, is the Orange Democratic Movement.
Thank you.
If the Registrar of Political Parties exercise his powers properly under the law, he would re-register all the other political parties and remain with ODM.
Thank you.
Let me now go to Meru.
And you'll be a judge also?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I do not want to talk much about the impeachment motion by the MCAs. I know it's going to come to the Senate. We look at the merits and demerits of what the MCAs are saying and make a decision. But I think as a country, we need to relook at the law on impeachment and see how we can enhance the threshold of impeaching leaders who've been elected by the people. It should not be just flimsy reasons, and then you impeach a leader say we must remove the governor.
Thank you. Yes, Senator.
Because we are going to make the governor position very unattractive. I know at the moment governors are going through a lot. There is a challenge of impeachment by MCAs. There is a flurry of letters from EACC, from Office of the Auditor General. They can barely work. I think we need to relook at the law and see ways of ensuring that we enhance the threshold of impeachment.
Thank you.
And so that we can make the seat of our governor, which is very critical in devolution process, be attractive to people.
You, Senator.
Because in the finality of things, we may not have people contesting for governor.
Okay, over fear of the same. Thank you, Senator Nyuru, briefly.
Thank you very much, Ayub. And just like my colleague has said, we would not want to look like people who may be prejudiced as this particular matter comes to the Senate next week. But Ayub, I think even as we talk about changing the law, which I completely, entirely also agree with, and one thing that I think we should change is threshold, as my colleague has said, but I think in my view, it may not be a very popular view, but then I think if a governor is impeached, then I think, because democracy is not cheap, I think we should change the law to provide that if a governor is impeached and they exhaust all the legal processes, then we should do an election. Because as it is now, I mean, people can be malicious. I mean, if you have a malicious deputy governor, for example, because they are the direct beneficiaries, I think they can try to bring you down, see you getting impeached. I don't know whether this is good to say, but if they had a way to eliminate you, they would also eliminate you because they know that immediately they will be sworn in as governors. So I think for me... But
isn't the Senate where you sit a defender of devolution based on if an issue is based on, an impeachment is based on flimsy reasons, then you are there for a reason and the Constitution placed you at that very critical point, is it?
Thank you very much. What we are saying is, you know, most of the governors, even those that have been impeached, sometimes it's not about their direct involvement in most of these accusations. It's about their people, their CEC M's, their chief officers. But because they have to take political responsibility, sometimes they are shown the door. That's why I'm saying, so some of these things could have been perpetrated, but not maybe sometimes directly by the governor.
All right.
And I do not want to go into the intricacies of the same, but I think we need to do away with malice. Let there be elections for a new governor so that we can have a fair process. Because as it is now, governors are at risk from everybody because they know, people know that if you get out, then the deputy governor becomes governor. Finally, I think for the case in Meru, I think we also need to learn how to live with people. And I think this is the advice that I gave the governor in the House when she was let off the hook by the Senate. And you are asked to give some words of wisdom to her. Let's also know how to live with people. Because as a politician, you are managing people. You cannot be somebody that does not respect people, somebody who is contemptuous. I think we need that balance.
Thank you. Let's now take a look at the feedback here on the broadcast. The hashtag on X is, I'll give it the final time feedback on the Bokina. The hashtag on X is Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. Here's what you are saying. The first one is from viewer number 1, and this is based on the first topic that we had. Godi Barasa, where it says the political class is letting down the Kenyan people at any available opportunity. In the wake of this biting high cost of living, the Parliament can afford to talk about political party coalition powers instead of talking about real issues. Sanixon Degure says it's quite unfortunate that Kenya's political system is forever shifting from one set of coalition politics to the next without creating a safe and secure political space for governance. Engineer Lazaro says Honorable Kenan, Sabina Chege can't continue to be Azimio deputy whip and at the same time openly serving Kenya Kwanza interests. That's illogical, he meant. No woman can serve two husbands diligently at the same times. Yeah, Musoma says Jubilee isn't new to controversy. During the last regime, most Jubilee MPs abandoned their party and supported UDA in by-elections. It's funny that Honorable Kenan does not recognize the affiliation to Azimio, yet Sabina wanted to be a Raila running mate. Babu Michelle K says, what justification can the KK government give to the many to the president's foreign trips? The situation in Kenya, most of the cost of living and the dollar to Kenya shilling in general isn't getting any better. Is there value for the money, honestly? The final one from Rev Harrison _453 says, as long as these trips are bringing him and benefits to the country's economy, I am then see no problem with them, only that they ought to go for a recent circular by Felix Koskei limiting the number of delegations. God bless you, he says here on the broadcast. Thanks for your time, gentlemen, and your company here on the broadcast. Sondabout and Kenan is the lawmaker representing Elders constituency. Thank you for your time. In many aspects, is the father of the house. Senator Godfrey Osotsi represents Vihiga County, so is John Yutu from the county of Muranga. Thanks for your presence here on Daybreak. And thank you to you too for watching and waking up with Daybreak here on the broadcast. Your company is always valued and appreciated. And we'll see you tomorrow morning here on Daybreak. Till then, good morning.